Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. I'm Thijs Maas. I'm the founder, CEO of OnRamper. We are the #1 fiat on-ramp aggregator, which means that we've aggregated all major fiat on-ramps in a single widget and API that we have that we offer to parties like Sushi, BitMax, and Wirex. So I want to walk through a few things with you guys today, basically covering the state of fiat on-ramps, which sounds super theoretical, but we'll make it fun because I'll start with a simple question. And if I seem a bit out of breath, that's because I jumped out of my Uber to grab a bike because it was quicker and I was stuck in traffic. But the question is this: so do users still need to touch Ethereum's main layer, the mainnet, right? Traditionally, we've seen that apps were built there. Now, of course, there's more transaction volumes on layer 2s than there's on actual mainnet, and that's because it's cheaper, faster, right? In order to get to these layer 2s where people use these applications, we used to buy crypto on the mainnet and then bridge it over, right? But that comes with its problems. It's not very efficient, and yeah, bridges get hacked. We saw this even last week with multi-chain or AnySwap. So what if this is no longer required? What if you can on-ramp directly towards fiat on-ramps, just not touch the main layer at all? I'll try to answer this question. Is this possible? But first we need to take a step back and look at what fiat on-ramps are. So many of you might be familiar with the concept, but fiat on-ramps are essentially third-party fiat to crypto providers, right? They provide an API or a widget that you can embed on your project, wallet, dApp, exchange, whatever. This allows your users to buy, and in the few years past, we've seen that these on-ramps said, well, we can do this worldwide. Turns out not really, or not very well, but I'll walk you through that. But this is why we see now more and more on-ramps popping up. Local parties with local licenses, local banks, local payment methods that outperform the more global on-ramps. We see this with parties like on-ramp money in India, parties like BTC Direct, European payment methods, and many of these other parties, as well as parties like Fondbank in Africa, popping up and starting to outperform. Now, fiat on-ramping is the first thing a user does. We all want Web 2 adoption in Web 3 or Web 2 users, but this needs to work well, right? It's the first thing a user does. If it doesn't work, they'll just go away. So is this possible? How good are these fiat on-ramps currently? When it's about payments applications in general, there's 3 important factors to look at. Fees, we all get that, right? Cheaper is better. Reach, which payment methods are available, which countries, which fiat currencies can be used, and which cryptocurrencies can be bought. What's the support for buying layer 2 based tokens? And then the last one, which is actually the most important one, but sadly in the crypto space, the most overlooked: success rates. Do transactions actually work? What happens when people click buy? They run through KYC, then do a payment, but what if the payment fails, right? So I'll basically try to answer this question while going through each of these and trying to give some insights. And these insights come from our unique positioning in the space. We have aggregated all fiat on-ramps, and we do tons of transaction volumes through all of them. So we understand perfectly what these fiat on-ramps are good at. What are they bad at? Which countries do they perform? Which countries do they not perform? What payment methods? What currencies are available? So let's start with then fees. It's easy, right? The perfect fiat on-ramp has 0 fees, 100% success rate, and perfect reach of payment methods countries. Now, that doesn't exist. So we try to approximate that as well as we can. When it comes to fees, it's pretty interesting because we often talk to parties in the space that say, oh yeah, we had this great conversation with OnRamp X and they're giving us such a great deal. They went down from 4% fees to 3% fees. We're like, okay, cool. And then we actually look at how much crypto the user receives. And we see that their user receives the same amount of crypto as the user of a party that has that 4% fee. Now, why? Because eventually fee is not just what's quoted to you by an on-ramp, it is what's actually, it's all about what do people get at the end of the day, how much crypto arrives, right? People hide fees in spreads. On-ramps do this constantly, and without naming any, to be honest, most of them do, right? So in the same way, two on-ramps that both have 3% fees, they might give a completely different crypto in the end. Which also means that the only way to compare fees honestly is just comparing on-ramps based on the crypto received, right? When it's about layer 2s, you can imagine that it should be cheaper to buy. If the additional cost to get liquidity is lower than the on-chain transaction costs added by using main layer, it should be cheaper to buy on layer 2. So is that actually true? Well, this Sunday I had a quick look. This is our widget, by the way. We offer this to clients. And in it, we've aggregated all of these on-ramps, right? So I said, okay, let's buy 100 euros of ETH on Ethereum and 100 euros of ETH on Arbitrum. Interestingly, I got more on the mainnet. And that's because for the left transaction, there's about 5 on-ramps available. There's not too much fee competition there. For the right transaction, there's actually 10 plus on-ramps available in on-ramper. So there's more competition to actually get this transaction. The fees are lower. But still, you think, well, maybe, I thought, let's look a bit deeper in that. So I asked the data analyst on a Sunday, hey, can you quickly look into this? Because this is quite interesting. And he had a look at the price of ETH, the effective price, after all fees, credit card fees, payment processing fees, the spreads. Which is cheaper, buying ETH on Optimism or ETH on Ethereum? And here we do actually see gigantic differences sometimes, where the fee on Optimism to buy Ethereum on Optimism is actually a lot lower, which is what you would expect, right? Because no mainnet transaction involved, therefore lower fees. Now, let's talk about reach. This one is also pretty well understood, right? If you now go to MetaMask or Trust, you'll run into these fiat on-ramps, and they started aggregating fiat on-ramps, adding more fiat on-ramps because they realized, well, if we have more local payment methods and more countries supported, more users can buy, which is fair enough. That's also why within OnRamper, right, we've got 15 plus on-ramps aggregated. That means we support all of their payment methods, right? In order for users to be able to skip layer 1 and just go straight to layer 2, we need good support of layer 2 based tokens. So let's look at what that looks like currently. Now, this slide might be a little bit outdated, but I'll walk you through it. Basically, I want to go into different rollup approaches. You've probably been bombed to death with that topic. We see that the more established layer 2s, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, have more on-ramps that support tokens on their network, which is better for fees, obviously. The more ZK proof-based networks still have a lower support from the on-ramp space. So less on-ramps support buying tokens on their chain. I think Starknet does actually have a few on the left, but this is still quite low. And if we want people to on-ramp directly to also ZK knowledge-based protocols, this needs to improve. Now, if you're sitting here and you're from one of these projects, talk to me after, because I want to improve this. Then in the bottom, you also see the amount of assets per layer 2. Well, Polygon is also in there. And you'll say that this is not that great yet. I did a similar-ish presentation in Bogota, and at that time, and there was like 4 assets supported on Arbitrum, 5 assets on Polygon. So we are making improvements as a space. But still, of course, this is something that we as a space need to improve. Now, the most interesting and overlooked aspect of fiat on-ramps is actually success rates. What is the point if you say you can support a transaction if 5% of transactions go through, right? On-ramps often claim, yeah, we do worldwide. No, you don't. We see the data, right? Sadly, we see that when you look at the amount of people that receive crypto after starting a transaction, only about 18% of users actually end up with crypto in their wallet. 82% fails. 4 out of 5. Round it up. Round it off, round it down. It just doesn't work, right? And that's including KYC and payment. Now, if we get through KYC correctly and we don't give up because we hate KYC, then we end up with a payment and we use a credit card and then still 50% of credit card payments fail. Authorization rates are terrible because somewhere in the chain of the transaction, whether it's a user's bank, issuer bank, scheme, or any other party in the chain of the transaction, somebody says, nah, this is too high risk. Nah, we don't want to support this. Yeah, that is something that in the traditional payment space, we've already devised solutions for. But in the on-ramp space, sadly, we're super far behind. So what have we done? Well, we see for every user which on-ramp is actually successful, right? For this user, Jenny in Spain, we've seen that a similar person like Jenny have tried a bunch of different transactions with a bunch of different on-ramps. We see exactly which on-ramps have been successful, which ones haven't. And we can start using that data in order to build smart routing algorithms, basically dynamic transaction routing for the payments people in the space, in order to predict what is the expected success rate of every fiat on-ramp for the specific user. And then we can recommend that on-ramp to the user. So we've ran this and essentially compared purely fee-based routing, which is what's used by most parties, against this success-based routing. And what we see is interesting. You see that in many key countries, including UK and US, you can actually have an extreme impact on the success of transactions by just knowing which on-ramp to route to, right? And in the same way, we see this in the UK. In the same way, we see this in other countries. And that's just one form of being smarter about success rates. You can also say, well, actually, we should be pushing people towards using alternative payment methods, local payment methods, because we see that same problems in credit card denial don't exist. Now, I'm from the Netherlands. Everybody in the Netherlands uses Ideal, not credit cards, so it's not a surprise to me that you get a massive increase in success rates while doing so. And then with parties in space, we have these conversations, right? We say, hey, look, it's time for you to actually build something proper so that users can actually buy crypto properly. And then they say, well, yeah, what's the impact? These stats are all cool, but what's the actual impact you can get for us? So we've basically applied these 5 different routing methods. And we can go through this after if you want to actually have a chat about it. There's also low KYC routing, some device-based optimizations and some other factors. We've applied this to what we see as the basic EU-centric user base. So for an EU-centric user base, just applying these routing algorithms, you can increase the successful volumes, the successful on-ramp transactions by 50%, which is massive. But when we look at the US, it's even bigger. This is the average US client. And for them, we can increase this by about 80%. Now, my call towards the entire space is, let's please start thinking about success rates properly, right? Everybody's focused on fees, everybody's focused on reach, but success rates is where it's really at. If we can double the amount of inflow, then everything we're building on crypto can actually be used. Because what is the point of building all of these cool applications if it can only be used by people that already have crypto or by the lucky 1 out of 5 users that can do a transaction, right? And then we also have the globally dispersed user base, about 70%. So if you're more equally weighted across different regions in the world. So to get back to the main question, do your users still need to touch Ethereum's main layer? No, but only if we approach on-ramps correctly. Only if we look beyond just fees, beyond just reach, beyond just success rates alone, but to the total of all three factors. And make sure that we make it frictionless, cheap, and well supported throughout the space. Now, this is what we do at OnRamper. If you want to have a chat later, come by to me or anyone with an OnRamp shirt. There's some people from our team here as well. And I'm super curious to any questions that you might have. Yep. Yeah, so there's two different forms of on-ramping. One is on centralized exchanges, where you generally use or will use deposit-based mechanisms, where you first deposit crypto and then buy. That works better, right? But not every crypto platform, especially when we look at DeFi, DEXs, NFT marketplaces, but even wallets, want to get the required licenses in order for you to have a fiat wallet. This is where fiat on-ramping comes in, right? But also for parties like Coinbase and Kraken, you know, they also can only do this support for fiat deposits in a more limited amount of regions where they actually have gotten the licenses. And for the rest, they need to outsource also towards fiat on-ramp space.
Hi, Jeffrey from Amaze Wallet. We built a self-custodial wallet, which just integrates with onramper.
Cool.
I was wondering if you have like detailed stats about your success rates in different countries, different currencies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talked about your smart engine. What does that mean to us?
Yeah, great question.
Projects already integrated with you.
Yeah, well, we just built and launched our what we call on-ramper terminal, which is a dashboard that basically opens up all of the data insights that we see to our clients. So what we'll make sure to do, we'll send you a message after or like have a little chat. We'll give you access to on-ramper terminal. So you can analyze for your specific user base, what are the success rates in which countries, with which on-ramps, with which payment methods. You can filter and segment the data, and we can give that fully, just openly to you.
Sorry, I was a bit late for your talk, but as your name is on-ramp, but do you also do off-ramping?
Yeah, so on the off-ramping side, we also are active. We currently use a few different off-ramps, and we're testing a bunch to find out what are the specific pain points and which parties are best in terms of banking rails. And there we will start aggregating as well. All right, then one more question here, and then I see some.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I know fees are not the main point, but what are your fees, and do you take them from final users or on-rampers that you aggregate?
And is that from end user perspective or from business looking to integrate on-ramper? The second one. So our fees are pretty simple. We are paid by the fiat on-ramps. We send transaction volumes to them. They rev share with us. So we don't add any fees on top. And then generally we have a subscription model of like 200 euros a month. But we also have a discount code for everybody here in the room, which is EFCC, which gives you about 50% off of that. So that's like 100 euros a month. Great questions. Really allows me to sell. All right. Yeah, then thanks everybody.
Thank you.